Good evening. Welcome to tonight's On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers. In tonight's show, I'll be talking with two very exciting guests on the subject of the year 2012 and what cataclysmic events might be in store for us and our planet in that long-awaited, fateful year. Live online by video link, we've got world-famous researcher, author, public speaker and historian Michael Tsarian. And in the studio, I'm joined by a researcher who's been studying the mysteries of the year 2012 for over 25 years. And he's also the author of several books on the subject. He's Jeff Stray. What a show we've got tonight. Welcome to you both. Jeff, welcome. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Theo, I can hear you. Thanks. Nice to be on the show with you guys.
Welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Michael.
Welcome. I think I'll start with you, Michael, just in case we get any technical problems and we lose you. You obviously work in lots of different areas of research, and I want to know really how you got involved in this. How did you become interested in all these areas that you write about, that you produce DVDs about, and in fact also in 2012, if you can give me a bit of a history.
Prophecy has always been interesting, to me. I mean, there's many threads, of course, that lead one to any particular area of research, especially anything as esoteric and deep as these particular matters, and also I would say controversial. But specifically talking about 2012, I guess it was an extension of my work with astrology and the divination arts, the tarot, Kabbalah, and the numerology. This is one of the major threads that got me interested. And when you go into that, it's a tremendous study. I have an online mystery school I have written extensively on the Hermetic arts, the divination arts, with an emphasis on the fact that it's not so much about rocks floating in space. It's not so much about, magic rays affecting consciousness and all of this kind of thing that, a lot of astrologers and a lot of people believe, because, of course, then you're tying into the whole idea of predestination and all of these kinds of things. My take on astrology is a little bit different. It's more based on the idea that it's about consciousness. In fact, in all my work, consciousness is never left at the door. It's always, the prime datum. And especially in astrology, the idea is that whatever is in the zodiac, whatever the zodiac is, and of course this then includes not just the Western idea of the zodiac, but any other cultures, whether you're talking Sumeria, or you're talking the Celtic, or you're talking, the Maya. Whenever you're talking about the zodiac, it's really an extension of what goes on in our own heads. In other words, to make it simple, we have an inner zodiac. This is, what my work emphasizes a lot. It's very much along the lines of what Carl Jung was talking about the archetypal nature, and that whatever is in consciousness is projected externally onto the outside world. So that, yes, I acknowledge that the material world affects consciousness, but I also insist that consciousness itself has the ability to mold and change matter. And that's what the zodiac basically is. It's a sort of a plastic template of whatever's in our consciousness, the 12 divisions of consciousness. And then you can subdivide those into the 3 and the 4. This is where the planets come in. And this template of consciousness is what ancient man, and is what we all do, we project it onto the night sky in a way that Jung clearly explained through the faculties of projection and inflation. And so we have the phenomenon known as the zodiac. So it's not about rocks floating in space with some sort of magic rays affecting consciousness in the way that most people would normally think, what the layman thinks. And what a lot of astrologers, misgivingly, perhaps they haven't done a lot of, homework, because it's really an extension of the psychology of human beings. And when you get into that, then you start to realize what these ancient shaman were talking about. They were very up on this. See, modern astrologers and the people who have their, bestsellers out there and their books on the spinner racks, they may call their work archetypal. They may use phrases like, spiritual, archetypal, hermetic, or psychological. And then they go on to show you that they really don't have much clue about what those words really mean. Well, you track back and start getting into the Druidism and into the Maya and into the ancients, and they absolutely understood that there's a tremendous connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm. And it was basically my interest in that started to open up the door about prophecy in general, whether you're talking about the coming age of Aquarius or the ending of the old cycle of Pisces, tracking back to Akhenaten when it was the age of Aries, moving into Pisces. Then we have the Christian mythos, you see, arising in Pisces. Then there's the supposition that we're moving into another age, whether you look at it from that point of view, or whether you're looking at it from the point of view of what the Maya said, where there is a potential age of awakening, which is then very much corroborates what I believe is in the book of Revelation and so on, which is, again, a book of prophecy within the Bible. There's lots of prophecy, astrology, and sidereal mythology within the Bible. So this is basically, to answer your question, what started me. It was looking at the astrotheological aspects. It was looking at the prophetic aspects of the Bible and the ancient scriptures.
Now, talking about the Maya, I noticed some of the things I've seen that you've written, you believe that this change, whatever is going to happen in 2012, has already started. Could you elucidate on that a little?
Well, even in the Maya prophecy, they don't talk about it happening overnight. They're talking about a series of changes, a series of ages that open and close, certainly. Certainly within astrology, that's a given, because you have, of course, the famous 12 houses. And in the Egyptian system, they talked about even 36 houses. And, there's other miscellaneous systems out there, but the idea that there are these houses that open, the planets and the sun and the luminary move to their peak, and then these cycles close again, is very, very important. It's important to realize that there are these mini cycles and these certain milestones. We've just passed a very important milestone within the last 30 days regarding the planet Pluto. Back in 2007, there was an important, archetypal milestone around the year 2007. So we have the mini ones, and then we've got the larger ones. So the Maya prophetics are talking about the 13-year, cycles. But in every discipline, whether you're talking the Vedic system, or whether you're talking some sort of a Druidic system, or whether you're talking the Vedic system of India or the Western systems of England, yes, that's what you have. You have ages, you have aeons. Again, picked up in the Bible, an esoteric reading of the Bible, you hear mention of the aeon. And the Christ talking about that I will come again at the end of the age, And this also is astrological. This can be interpreted astrologically. So it's very, very important for people to be aware of these cycles, because what happens on the calendar, as I said, and what happens in the zodiac is really, a projection of what's happening in consciousness. So this is how personal it gets. It affects societies, but it affects individuals as well.
So
the zodiac is the celestial timepiece. And it's not just some arbitrary thing out there. It's actually much more important than the watch that you have on your hand and the clock we have on our walls. And the reason why those clocks, even today, traditionally have 12 divisions, is based again on the zodiac having the 12 divisions. It's very, very important information.
So if something is happening already, are there signs that we could see, that we can talk about?
If you have the pattern recognition to notice it, because the very word sign comes from the old word sin, which meant the moon. So even when you talk about, hey, I've just had a sign, and the way that they would even use the word omen. If you go back and track back into what appears to be the folk legends and the fairy folk tales, and even the etymology, the words that we use, you're dealing with the moon, you're dealing with the luminaries, you're dealing with the sun. And my goodness, look at religion. A lot of my work emphasizes the solar aspects and also the Saturnian aspects and the stellar aspects of religion. So absolutely, if you have the pattern recognition, then just like Joseph Campbell said, this mythos is happening perpetually. It doesn't stop. It doesn't take a day off. There's no holiday, there's no vacation, there's no break. It's happening perpetually. But we have the mind forged manacles, that William Blake spoke of. We are the ones who have the blinkers on. We're just, infatuated with our own sense perceptions and our narcissistic stuff. So obviously, it goes unseen, but it's there morning, noon, and night. Absolutely, that mythos, that magic is there for those who, study, for those who get into this esoteric information, and for those who have the passion to see these intimations. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Jeff in a moment, but before I do, I've got a question for you that has been texted in from Paul in Warrington, and he says, wasn't the Bible based on astrology itself based on the Egyptians' beliefs?
Yes, it was. Paul is absolutely up to speed there, because, of course, it's not that you just have one interpretation of any scripture, but yes, the Bible, and remember that goes for the Apocrypha, that goes for other scriptures, including the Quran, that goes for the Torah, the Old Testament, and it goes for the Gnostic Gospels, it goes for the Essene Gospels, it goes for any, as I said, the book of Revelation, which is, again, tremendous study of what that really means from an astrological and spiritual point of view. So these documents are alive with this. They're not to be read on just one dimension. They can be, but there's so much more esoteric information there. And one of the best ways to decode the ancient scriptures, as it is to decode even the sort of emblems and logos and symbols that we see in the corporate world today, in the social world today, is astrology. It is the sidereal mythology. That's a big code breaker in these areas. It's one of the areas that, again, was one of the threads that led me to want to look deeper into this whole question of the ancients and their prophecies.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. Let me just move over to Jeff for a moment and get him in the room. As you know, I hope, Jeff has written several books and he's been researching 2012 since 1982.
Yeah.
Is that right? I'm going to show the camera a couple of your books. This is 2012 in Your Pocket, which I read this afternoon, actually, and it's a fascinating book. And it is incredible how many different societies all over the world, going back thousands of years, have got 2012 as a special end-of-time date. So here's another one. There's the full version. Beyond 2012 is a catastrophe or ecstasy. So, Jeff...